Right
Okay.
at 3:06. Good job.
Go. Go.
And hello, everybody. It is Tom Chenault. It's the Tom Chenault Radio Show. I hope you are having an unbelievable day. This is a show that is special to my heart. I have no idea if any of my misfit friends will be watching this because it's not home-based business. I think it's a whole lot. Home-based business is my job. And that's how I get paid. That's what I do. I'm passionate about it, but this is what makes me live my life. And that's helping addicts, that's helping homeless people, that's helping alcoholics. And I know I can't do it alone. And my co-host here for a little while till I get tired of him is my friend J.W. Wilson. He is the guy that introduced me to Robert Kiyosaki. They grew up in Hawaii together. They were complete and total crazy people. And I love him. And he's writing a book on the brain, and we'll get to that in a minute. He lost his son how many years ago to heroin?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. This is the kid. He was my godson. My son Dominic's in the studio audience. Tough time for everybody, and it makes this show really pertinent. It is so nice that he came down here. And our guest is an amazing woman who I accidentally met in an airport. I thought she was hitting on me because she saw, and I was with Denise. I'm going, don't do that. And she had on this magnificent fur coat and a chihuahua, and she just come from Aspen, and she was headed to New York City, her home. And she looks over at me and goes, "Excuse me, sir," because I'm 100. And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she goes, "Are you by chance a friend of Bill W.?" And I go, "Yes." And that's the code for AA. And I thought that my sobriety was just emanating out of my skin. But what was really happening was my wedding band had the AA symbol on it, and she spotted it. And it turns out that this fresh-faced kid had gotten sober and had given her life to recovery in those days. So when we got to New York, she hooked me up with Perry Street, all the unbelievable AA meetings. So Denise and I went to all of those, but we became friends with her 2 children, her life, and she is the real deal. If you go to Silver Bell Coaching right now, you can get a little dose of this woman. But how are you, Natasha?
I'm doing well. What a fun introduction.
Well, that's you.
Oh, that was precious. Yeah, wasn't that what, about 8 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was much younger then.
You had the triangle on your finger, and I still am, but even more so, recovery is such an amazing piece. It's like we get a second chance with life. And so anytime I can engage with another person and a human being that's in this program and breathing that life, and I see this little humble ring on your finger with a triangle, and I'm like, hey, what are the odds? In I don't know what, Denver, I think we were, and just saying hello, basically, in our AA way.
And you have changed a lot of lives since then. So in a nutshell, talk about your education and your mission and your business. And the reason I want people listening is because, people to pay real hard attention, is we have a huge problem, but we've got a God-sized solution to it. And most of us can do something to change the outcome of all this opiate and alcohol problems. And Natasha is on the leading edge of it. Tell them about you a little bit.
Sure. Gosh, where do I begin? Let's start with the epidemic that we find ourselves in, and how unfortunate it is that our number one kill in our nation of 50 people, 50 and under, is accidental overdose, and the devastation that that's causing our lifestyle here, And so I work with an organization called Partnership for Drug-Free Kids. It used to be called Partnership for Drug-Free America. This is your brain on drugs. It's a philanthropic organization that I've been working with for about 10 years now. And we lead pro bono workshops on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And we are hosting them kind of like a grassroots campaign for 8 years now, I think. And other moms from all the schools come around, sit in the living room, and we have a leading psychologist who's addiction trained sitting there quoting stats and statistics. And we teach and educate these parents on how to have challenging conversations with their 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15-year-old. To me, that is what makes me get up in the morning. That's just philanthropic pro bono, because you've got to give this message away and you've got to reach the masses. And Partnership for Drug-Free Kids does that. They're so known for so many things. But out of my own recovery, when I met you, I was actually still doing, I remember our first radio show together. Ironically, I did it on my grandmother's deathbed. I don't think you knew that. I was visiting my grandmother in Michigan. She was passing away at 92. And she was everything to me. And I'm actually here out in Montana now on the family cattle ranch that her ancestors, my ancestors, homesteaded. And so I did this radio show with my cousin who flew from Montana as we were saying our goodbyes in the living room. And I was doing event planning with Russell Simmons. And it was fun, and it was nice doing a luncheon at the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan and bringing beautiful guests and filling the bottom line for his donations and his charities. But in the end, I took a step back and said, is this it? Is this what life is all about for me? A Hamptons event in the Hamptons, and it just didn't feel right. Sober 2 years, trying to figure things out, moving through some transitions in my life, my grandmother's passing. And I didn't have an answer at the time, but I knew that my sobriety was the most important thing to me. And that's where I was going to 2 meetings a day, sponsoring so many women. And I'll just touch really quickly on the organicness about how my company started. By default, my passion found me, Tom. And I had friends that are in recovery, similar to yourself, that are psychologists, MDs, doctors, lawyers, who are saying, you need to do this professionally. And I was like, no, I'm not a social worker. I'm not an MD. They're like, stop, get out of your own way. Cause I have 3 small kids at home at the time. And I was a single mom. And so I'm trying to figure things out. And they said, go get certified as a coach. And I'm like, yeah, but that's kind of for people who didn't amount to something, right? I had so much judgment on myself. And I went ahead and got certified as a life and recovery coach, 2 separate certifications. And I began working with moms who were, because I'm a divorced mom, who were transitioning out of marriage into, being a single mom and trying to stay sober. And I was able to help bring those women to sobriety, and they still have lasting recovery to this day. And my company has morphed into I really bespoke case management where, Tom, I can't even begin to tell you how blessed I am. That was about 8 years ago.
And what's gone on with you is you basically have found the kids that are stuck on this skid row of privilege.
Yes,
and
correct.
It's a tougher spot by a long shot. When you're laying in the gutter and you have no alternative but to get sober, that's one thing. But when you're living a really, really big lifestyle and your parents are loaded, it is a whole different ballgame. And very, very, you came from that kind of lifestyle, and look at what happened to you.
A bit of a disaster. Yeah, both my parents died from alcoholism and drug addiction, and so did my son. So if you've got the makeup, you got the genetic makeup, and what you're doing is perfect. You're starting at the time you're dealing with these kids. Adults have about 5,000 connections per neuron. The children with have up to 15,000 connections per neuron. That's why kids can learn so quickly. Yep. So if we start sooner, what we do is, and basically your environment starts to shape your brain, which dictates your behaviors.
You got it.
What you're doing fantastically is starting with these kids when their brains are the most malleable. They're helping change their environment that literally changes the shape of their brain. So they literally see addiction and drugs and alcohol very differently than they would if you weren't doing what you're doing. You're literally altering their neurobiology so you can save their lives.
Crazy.
Thank you so much for that. I want to have you on our next workshop, because I can say that all day long. It's getting the parents to recognize that they have the power to set the tone, to change their children's trajectory in life. And because teens, 14, 15, even 12 years old, they're so challenging, and they're so like, no, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go be with Bobby, and Bobby's going to be around weed, and I don't care, and it's going to be legal. Your answer should be, no, you're not. You're going to come home. You're not going to do that. And so giving parents, there's a book that was published a few years ago by a psychologist named titled Permission to Parent. And it really is just giving the right back to parents to say, no, I'm the adult. I'm the one that has the neurons connecting. I have the prefrontal cortex that's working properly. You're going to be listening to me. So we're really trying to empower the parents. And so, Tom, when I end up getting a lot of more intensive cases, it's that 18 to 30-year-old range where the parents are taking a step back and say, okay, I can't figure this out by myself. Like you said, Tom, please help me. And so we come in with like a SWAT team to help the parents get these children back on that trajectory, because their brains aren't done developing until now. What research says, almost 26, 27. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
So we have a lot of time to get that brain at 22 reformatted.
Yep, you do.
So Natasha, what do you have? You have over 100 companions going now?
Oh my goodness. On my roster, I have about 150. I would say a little bit less than half or a little more actively on cases. It's not like we put 2 per case, and that could be, I'm in the UK, I'm in nationwide, anywhere. We help kids finish college, kids finish, gap years, medical leaves, summer programs, you name it. Let's just fix it. Let's plug up the holes. I kind of think about when I'm herding cattle, how do I get 50 head of cattle from one pasture over 400, the other pasture over the mountain, nice and easy. We stage the horses around the cattle, just kind of ease them on in and point them in that direction, but give them space to figure it out for themselves a little bit.
Wow. Is that cool enough?
Well, what you're really doing is creating a different environment. What our brain wants to do is its main job. The reason Arabs are Arabs and Italians are Italians is because they grew up in an environment that shaped their brain to be that way, right? Mm-hmm. So the more we can alter the environment that these people are growing up in, the more the feedback that they're getting from the environment creates this positive internal feedback, then the more it changes their structure so they naturally self-correct. You don't have to run around beating them over the head.
That's right.
Punishment.
I love it.
And one of the things that you said was fascinating from the neurobiological standpoint is what you found in life, what is meaningful to you now. Mm-hmm. What most of these children, the fascinating thing about the neural signature for addiction, what it does to dopamine, endorphins, serotonin, is the same thing that finding meaning in your life does.
And you nailed
it.
So
the lower the meaning in your life, the lower your ability to stimulate those neurochemicals. So what do? You look outside of yourself to stimulate those neurochemicals with thrill seeking or drugs or alcohol or those kind of things.
That is cool. All right.
So go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
No, what were you going to ask him?
What we do to jump off that, because that's exactly, I love that I was saying before we got on live, we're the non-clinical approach with our sober coaches, our support coaches and companions that live one-on-one with the client to help rehabilitate them and give that positive reinforcement and non-reactive energy to them as they defuse and rebuild their transmitters so that we can create that meaning and purpose. Because the first 6 months, they can't do that. And then I have a kid doing helicopter lessons.
I got to take a break. Hold it. Let's take a break.
Okay.
We're coming back right after this.
Okay.
And we're back. This is the commercial. Okay, get out of here. Adrian, you get in. No, wait, I'm getting out of here.
You're getting out of here.
Because you get in. No, you come in.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
And then you climb in and you talk contact mapping with Adrian.
Volume up a little bit.
Okay, this is a commercial.
Sure.
Yeah, you seem a little bit low.
This guy is a nutcase.
All right.
All right.
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Greetings, everyone.
That's Natasha.
Hi, Natasha. You are awesome. This guy's a sciencey sort of brain, huh?
Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
So you have heard of television and radio hosts not wearing any pants. It's not that bad with Tom Chenault, but I have never seen 2 shoes so untied in my life. I thought for sure he was going to fall on
no
his face.
socks.
Terrible. So thank God this could have been terrible.
I don't think
we don't
Can they see my toenails?
No, they can't see. You have to come behind.
Look at my toenails. This is even worse. Can you get it on there?
This is the only radio show where you could. Did you
Oh
paint
my God.
You
James.
painted your toenails?
My toenails are painted because my grandkids wanted to go to the manicure place. So is that cool? That's during the commercial.
All right.
That's great. You never know what's going to
I think we just lost the 2 listeners.
yeah, everyone on that.
All right.
Their computer died when they threw up on it.
They went to go get a beer.
Oh my
Contact mapping. Talk about it.
Contact mapping. So JW, you are one of the big inspirations behind contact mapping and one of the first conversations I ever had about turning this philosophy into a business. So talk about your observations of what contact mapping is from your point of view.
Yeah, what Tom and Adrian, his son, have done is done something really unique. what the brain wants to do all the time, it's always trying to make associations. This is why Aristotle said metaphor is the greatest way to have people learn, is through using metaphors. The reason why is you have certain concept networks in your brain, from everything from fruits to friends to cars. And what your brain is always doing is trying to figure out where to put that in your network, where it fits the best. What we've never really had is something that lays out in a format that people can use on their computer, on their phone, when they meet somebody, to enhance the existing structures in your brain that say, oh, that person's really important. What they said to me is really important. God, it really touched me. But a week later, you met 40 other people and you forget them.
Yep.
So what happens is it gets lost up here. So what they've created is really kind of a plug-in or a brain hack that allows me to remember all those people that I've met in my life that can influence my future and the future of the world in a positive way. What they've done with contact mapping is very ingenious. They've developed a way in which you can open up your phone or your computer and see the network of all the people in your life and how that all interconnect. And that's really powerful stuff.
That's awesome.
So if you want to, so let's say you've got something that is meaningful to you that you want other people to be engaged in, what you do is when you meet them with contact mapping, you find out what's most meaningful to them, you put it in, in your note thing, and then next time you talk to them, and if you can hit somebody else's meaning network, that's what's important to them, then everything changes.
All right.
That's right. So go to contactmapping.com, check it out. You get a free 30-day trial, and I'm going to watch Tom Chenault try to trip his way back into this frame.
Okay, Jado, you out of there. We're bringing it on.
Okay.
Okay, the rotating chairs continue to go on.
5 seconds.
And we are back. It is Tom Chenault, and it's the Tom Chenault Show. I hope you're all having an unbelievable day. That first segment with Natasha Silver Bell and J.W. Wilson was off the chain. And now we're on the second part of this thing. And this little snot-nosed kid right here is Dominic Ciani, my tremendous, tremendous son, who is J.W.'s, the kid that passed 2 years ago was his best friend. So this is an emotional day. His celebration for that anniversary is tomorrow. That's why I wanted to do this show with Natasha and Kim Calabrese, because I'm in a real big funk. And losing somebody that close to you and having a son, I mean, it's been pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah, 2 years ago, the 20th.
Yeah. So tough stuff. Say hi to Natasha, my buddy. This is the kids we're trying to save, right, Natasha?
Hey, I'd love to meet him live one day. He's a good
Yeah,
looking
nice
kid.
to finally, I mean, this is better than the texting we've been doing, but it's nice to finally see you.
We'll put him to work.
Yeah.
So
Seriously,
this is the kind of
my
kids you're
clients
saving their
actually
life
come
though,
back.
right?
Say it again.
These are the kind of kids that you are committed for the rest of your life to saving.
100%. And I was just going to add, what happens with a lot of my clients is after a year or two, they come in at being one of my coaches. And I have kids, heroin addicts, like some of the scariest cases I've ever worked on. These kids are shooting up. And I just, as long as the parents let go and let me do my job, then boy, do we rock it until we have successful long-term recovery under our belt. These kids, you should interview them someday. They're unbelievable. You remind me of them, Dominique.
And that's what we want to do. I mean, seeing these kids literally come back to life
Yes.
from where it was has got to be like the most gratifying thing on the planet for you. And you are not touchy-feely. You are warm up. I mean, I'll never forget when I sat with you in New York with Denise, and we were talking in that restaurant, and our eyes were just this big because she looks like such a great kid, Natasha does, but man, the sailor in her came out when she was talking about her commitment to these kids, and she takes, I want to get behind Dominic, honey, because she takes no wooden nickels. I mean, you are tough, but you have to be with them, right?
You have to be. There's a tenderness, but yet if we're dealing with someone who wants to run out and shoot up, hi, and then I've been known to body check a client into submission. Yes. Technically, you're not supposed to do that, but you know what? The kid's alive today and working for me as a coach.
Yeah, and you will stop at nothing on this planet to help them.
As long as the parents give me the right to take care of their child, amen.
That is a beautiful thing. And you're always, Denise forgot to turn off her phone, first radio show. So that's very cute. But yeah, and we love you and we want to help you. And you're always doing fundraisers out there where we can give you money, but how do people help you?
I think prayer is probably one of the most important pieces that people can give in their heart, because it's through the power of prayer that I'm able to, I think, be what one would consider a successful company, because I am constantly just giving everything I can, but it isn't my work. I'm just the messenger. It's the work inside the clients' hearts and the parents' hearts that soften, and the change can happen from internally, from the inside out. So a lot of prayers maybe for all those who are sick and suffering and still struggling, and not just for the client, but for the family members, because sometimes it's even more painful for the parents to watch their loved one suffer and know that they can't do anything but let go and pray.
That's beautiful. Another guy living on the Facebook Live here is Duke Rumley, and I know he's a little bit about this Sober AF entertainment that Dominic and he just got published in a big article, a big magazine, as a result of the work that Duke and his foundation are doing, providing sober places at concerts and football games, because everything's a toilet bowl. The minute the parents are gone and the kids are free, it's over, right, Natasha? We need that.
Yeah, we need other choices. And so one of my friends, actually a former client of mine, started a company called Sober Fun NYC. And she's launching that now. I mean, what we do is rebuild that. Your other gentleman that was on, it's finding a purpose and a passion in life. And clearly my passion found me. And so when we can rebuild these young people, or even I have 40 or 50-year-old clients, and reinvent them into something that is of meaning and worth for them, forget it. Drugs and alcohol won't even come close to them, because they don't have time for that.
Well, nothing. Can you imagine being a sober coach and traveling around with her and doing all that? Come on now.
Come on. Next time you're in New York, we got to sit down and we'll talk it through.
Plus, he's a New York kid. That's what's cool. His dad's there now, and he'd just be rocking and going to meetings.
We have some really cool meetings. A lot of young, really hip and up and coming cool kids that have some killer sobriety, but haven't lost their swagger. You know, you don't. When you're sober, I think you're even more cool. There's this amazing psychiatrist that I work with in Manhattan called Dr. Rami Kaminsky. And it's so simple, but he's more of a philosophical psychiatrist, because meds are always secondary to the work that we're doing internally. But he says, anybody can put a needle in their arm. Anybody can put a bottle in their mouth. Anybody can put a line or a pill in their mouth or in their nose. It's those that choose not to are the ones that are doing the really cool stuff. And it's so true.
We got to go. It has been Natasha Silver Bell. She is awesome. We're coming back right after this. Thanks for listening. Bye. And we're back. How do you like her? Isn't it good to see you?
I love you so much. It's so cool to see you in Montana. I am I friended up on Instagram Sarah, and so she's great. She posts all the pictures. So I knew you were in Montana, and I've seen.
Oh,
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's great.
All right, I got Mark Stallings on here.
Yeah.
Okay, so her website is called Silver. You guys are both out of here. Say goodbye.
Bye. I want to see you in
silverbellcoaching.com. Natasha, thank you so much for coming on. I love you.
This was so fun.
I'll talk to you soon. We'll look you up in New York or maybe even Montana. We'll fly up. Bye-bye.
I love it. Okay,
right.
You bet.
Come on in. Okay, we got Adrian again. We got to do we're never going to pay for this show if we don't get to work. Follow up. I never believed it. You guys, I have become this tremendous expert in follow-up at a level that you would not believe. I thought the interview was important. I thought the coffee shop interview was important. I have turned into a follow-up machine as a result of his app. And I am telling you, it has changed my life. It has changed my relationships. It has changed literally everything. And it will change for you, but you've got to get this app. And you've got to get it right now. Go to contactmapping.com and get into it. And everybody goes, well, how do I figure it out? You can figure out anything. Figure it out. It's so easy. A dog with a note in its mouth can figure it out. Go ahead, Adrian. Just pisses me off.
Follow-up really is everything. And I loved what you put up on Facebook earlier about, on Father's Day, reaching out to people who have lost kids in the last year, because that's a horrible place to be. It's a horrible phone call to have to make, but those people, they probably got surrounded with a lot of love when that originally happened. And then it starts going quiet, and the people who continue to show up in their lives and call them up on days like that are going to be a tough day when most people have moved on, that is just an incredible gift. And those are the kind of things that when you have a place to listen to people, to be able to remember things about them that are important at a heart level, even if they seem not so important at a business level in any given conversation. And then you're able to bring those things back around, and you're able to stay in touch, and you are able to come back to them based on the thing that matters the most to them, which probably is not business on any given day. What's going to happen for you in life, what's going to happen for you in business, all those things are going to transform as a result of that. And you do that over and over again, and it all flows together. What happens in those dimensions of caring for people that are going through stuff in their non-business life, and how that feeds back into your business life. It's not like those two things, we like to think that those are separate domains. They're not. We are integrated human beings. And so being able to have that place to be able to make sure that you don't forget that stuff that's so important, it's just hard to keep it all straight in your head, is absolutely essential. And that's what this is really about.
That's beautiful. And it's the truth. And you can do it. Every one of you can do it. In your relationships, I'm guaranteeing you, I don't care who you are, your memory is only so good. I was talking about Natasha a minute ago, and I said her 2 kids, because the 2 kids, because that's the 2 people that Denise follows on Facebook or on Instagram. She's really got 3 kids. So I asked her about her 2 kids. She didn't notice that I screwed the pooch. It was just wrong. And, I guarantee she noticed when I said 2 kids, and she went, no, 3, Tom, nice job. But we have got to be better with our memories. I promise you that. And all of you watching out there, in about 30 seconds, I'm going to surprise you with something. So if you aren't watching the screen, watch the screen, because I'm going to change your life a little bit. I do, so you can get out of here, Adrian. I do want you in here, Adrian. I want you in contactmapping.com. JW, I want you to sit here, right here. Dominic, I want you close by him. And
I'm bringing Kim back in.
no, not yet. Just give me Mark and JW.
Okay.
Show is kind of like musical chairs. I like it.
It's coming up. We're coming back off this break in about 10 seconds. I got a little surprise for everybody. Turn your volume up. Okay, we're almost there. We're coming back right now. All right, this is the Tom Chenault Show, and this is a tough day for me because I am sitting here with the dad of my godson and the best friend of my son, and the kid died accidentally of a heroin overdose 2 years ago. And Mark Stallings, who's my buddy, has agreed to play us a little song just to commemorate Jake's life and Mitch James's life and anybody else who's lost a kid, because it is a terrible, terrible thing. So take it away, Mark.
All right, Mark.
Thank you so much. That was Mark Stallings, who's just a good friend, and he plays taps all over the country on anything to do with veterans. He's a veteran himself and a super human being. And he heard about this show, and he knows how serious it is to lose a loved one and what to say to a loved one. And thank you, Mark. And our next guest is Kim Calabrese, who is an unbelievable woman in her own right, buddy of mine. And she had a terrible loss in her life. And she recognized that no one knows what to say to people when there's loss. I mean, no one. And I'm constantly dealing with it all the time. I don't even know what to say to you most of the time, because I don't know if he's happy, sad, or in between. And so Kim, she lost a child and realized nobody knew what to say to her, and said, I'm going to write a book about that. And she's done just that. And now all the major networks are chasing her down, and TV shows, newspapers, magazines. And the reason it is because we're losing so many kids. We're losing so many people. And, you know, then you get to be my age, and hell, all my friends are dying. So I'm constantly talking to somebody that's lost somebody, and I don't know what the heck to say to them. If I say, oh, it's for the better, they get pissed off at me and say, no, it's not. And then if I say it's for the worse, they get pissed off at me. I don't know what to do. Kim, how are you?
Good, Tom. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Good. Well, you didn't prepare me that you were going to start me out with something so sad. So again, I'm truly sorry for the losses that I've heard about.
Well, you have absolutely peppered me with requests for questions, scripts. How's your speech sound? And I never responded one time, because I don't want a script. I want you to talk from your heart and tell me why you wrote this book. I mean, it's very important, but why'd you do it? Talk, you know, get raw, just get real and get authentic. Forget the canned part and just tell us what brought this book on.
Absolutely. Well, in 2003, I lost my 6-month-old daughter, and my husband, and my job, which I was a nanny for 20 years, all on the same day.
Whoa.
And my friends and family did the best they could to support me, but no one knew quite what to do. So I would say that I had a friend that gave me some, I wouldn't say the best advice, but that I needed to go out and get a job right away to get my mind off things. So I scurried around and found a friend that worked at Spirit Airlines and got me a job. So by day 6, I was working after the loss of my daughter. The unfortunate part was the friend that got me the job had told everyone about me. So when I went into work, everyone just put their head down, and you could hear whispering, is that the girl? Is that the girl? And I would just go home and I would cry and cry and cry. I was like, oh my God, I don't fit in anywhere. Everyone's life has gone back to normal, and mine was just crumbling day by day. So I lasted for maybe a month, maybe a little bit longer. And I came home one day and I said, you know what? There's 2 choices. It's either suicide to go be with my daughter, or I'm going to take off and I'm going to move to another state, which, mind you, I lived in Michigan 33 years of my life. But obviously I chose the second of the 2, and I had met my current husband at the time, and he chose that he would come with me to Florida. Now, the good part of this story was my parents were living their dream, and the 2 of them were off sailing around the world for 8 years, just the 2 of them. So they had this beautiful condo in Naples, Florida that overlooked the Gulf, and there were these beautiful yachts there. And I thought, oh, I can forget all this happened and carry on. So we'd get up and go to the gym, come back and have coffee, look out at the boats, look out at the ocean. I thought, all right, this is okay. But then I wanted to have kids. So in the first 12 months, I had 3 god-awful miscarriages. And so that obviously gave me something else to focus on. They were concerned I would never be able to have children. So Jim and I went through all of the testing, and all they could come up with is that I was very stressed. So we decided my parents were probably going to want to come home to their condo at some point, and that we probably had to get a life. So my husband took a job in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Well, there's not a lot in Tulsa, Oklahoma to stress out about. We just a matter of running from tornadoes, getting in your Frady holes maybe, and watching tumbleweeds go by, cornfields. So I got pregnant with my son. Everything was great. During the delivery, they lost my son completely. They asked my husband to leave the room and they called in a team of 20 doctors. And at the very best, they said he would have major brain damage. So the good part to that story is it did reverse to my son. He's probably one of the smartest kids you'll ever meet, and he's almost 13 now. So I now have a 10 and 13-year-old. And I knew right at that point my life was changing, that I was going to make it to where I homeschooled my boys. I taught them through travel, and we weren't going to wait for anything because life could be taken from you in a second. So I did just that. I lived this lovely life. I travel with my boys at least 6 months out of the year. We were just in China last year for 5 weeks. We travel all over. But about 2 years ago, I became very, very depressed. And I didn't know why. I mean, I was living my dream. I got everything I wanted. I had 2 beautiful boys. I had traveling. I was living everything I wanted, but I was getting more and more depressed. And I thought, if you don't do something, you need to be here for these little boys. So a dear friend of mine, which a lot of you on this call will know, Lauren LaHave, I met her many years ago when she was going through the worst thing of her life. And I became friends with her on Facebook, and I kind of watched her, but she scared me. I was like, I am not going to do the things that she's doing. She'd bring me out of my comfort zone. But when I became so dark and deep again, I knew I had to do something. So I had noticed that she was running these women's events called Lobella, and one was coming up, and I asked her if I could come. And she said, she opened me with welcome arms. But I remember one of the first things when I walked in the door, she said, I'm going to dig into you. And I thought, oh, I'm in the wrong place because I don't even know what's wrong. So it happened to be a speaker, which some of you might know, Jennifer Steinman. She's a film producer out in LA, and she was one of the speakers. And she had did a movie that's on Netflix called Motherhood. And it was all parents that had lost children. So as soon as she started talking, I just lost it. And that made me realize where the depression was coming from, as all of this was starting to creep back up on me because I had buried it and pretended it had never happened. So that was the starting point of where the whole thing turned around. And then I hired Lauren as my coach, and we were able to brainstorm, and I joined all these support groups of people that had lost children, and I interviewed thousands of them, sometimes 8 to 10 hours a day, trying to figure out why I was going through this. And it came up to people just didn't know how to support us. And that's how I came to write the book. I realized when Lauren first told me I was going to write a book, I said, you're out of your mind. You're crazy. There's no way I'd ever do that. But once I could turn it around and realize I could really save millions of lives, once it wasn't about me, it completely changed. Then I was able to go and say, you know what, I can do this, and I can go out and get this education out to as many people as possible.
Where do you want people to buy this book?
Right now on Amazon, it is available for Kindle. I'm hoping Tom will help me make the big announcement. We're making some adjustments, and then in July, it will be out on paperback also on Amazon, and it'll get into Barnes and Nobles and all over.
Okay, so right now you can only buy it on Kindle.
What's the name?
Correct.
Yes. What's the name of the book?
The name is What Do I Do by Kimberly Calabrese.
Yeah, hold
I
it up.
named it that because that's what everyone asked me.
Yeah, no question about it. And you've got a copy of it sitting right there, right?
I do.
Hold it up so people see it. So that's the book, you guys. It will help you because nobody knows what to say. And what JW said to me earlier today is I feel worse for the people that I run into than I feel for myself because it's terrible, right?
Yeah, I mean, at some level, I've worked really hard on, I got to lose my parents. So then I got to lose my son, right? And in a way, they were opportunities to enhance my spiritual condition and recognize there was really no separation. So I kind of came at this from a different viewpoint. So trust me, my ego is not healed. I still feel the loss dramatically, but my spiritual self, I feel pretty free and still in connection with my son all the time. So what happened to me is people would come up to me and they would be so uncomfortable about what to say. You know, we live in a little town here in Boulder, and everybody knew we were in the newspaper. It was a big deal. And I would end up feeling more miserable for them than I did for me, because it's hard for everybody, because nobody teaches us how to deal with somebody else's grief. And what you're doing is really adding a lot of value to the world, because we need that tremendously.
Yeah, this basically starts from a step-by-step. So from the time you get that phone call, and again, I like to make this clear because a lot of people still don't understand this. This is not a book for the parents. This is how friends and family can support us. And I think it's a very important thing to point out first, that when you lose a child, you also lose your family at the beginning for support, because, for instance, it was my mom's first grandchild. So she was grieving. She was absolutely no support for me. I couldn't be support for her. So we really need our friends. So basically it starts from the time you get that phone call.
I got to take a break here. We're going to take them back right after this with Kim Calabrese. Pretty cool show. Stick around. Okay, you two.
How's your ass?
Okay, this is Adrian. And after the show, you're coming in for the other. So I'm rotating co-hosts like crazy here. All of you know the drill except Kim and poor who was there? Natasha, was that her name? Yeah, I know. I was kidding, Natasha. I know you. In case you're still watching, which is highly unlikely. But if you were, I didn't forget your name. I just forgot that you had 3 kids instead of 2, because Denise is only friends on Instagram with 2 of them. And so, do they all 3 have Instagram accounts, honey?
I'm friends with Sarah and Sam.
Sarah and Sam. All right. We know 2 out of 3. All right.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Okay. So talk about, what do you want to talk about?
I think we should talk about contact.
All right. Take it away, buddy.
So, Kim, you have just been an incredible friend to us.
She's great.
And I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy that you're on the show today. And, you and I talked a little bit about how what we're doing with contact mapping could support somebody as they go through a process like this. And so I'd love for you just to talk a little bit about how important it is to get organized and be able to stay organized as somebody helping, whether it's through a grieving process or whatever it is, just how you, when we started sharing with you about contact mapping, how you connected that to your own mission.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of, when you read my book, it's a step-by-step, and there's a lot of things that you have to do, a lot of notes you have to take, a lot of things you have to remember. And, it just kept clicking with me that contact mapping, I could start doing this even with these people that I was interviewing over and over again to keep them straight on who was saying what, who was doing what, that I needed some sort of organization. And from that point forward, I realized, wow, I really need to start putting this into some of my, to some of my speeches, because this can really, really help people. So I think it's, I've already pitched it to my media people on saying, you guys need this. It's, when you run into people that you meet and you're not, to have a photo and to have it on your phone is great.
Yeah. And I think, what it comes down to in my mind in relation to what you're doing and just in general is that inevitably in every one of our lives, stuff's going to hit the fan. That's just, it's a fact. It's a matter of time as to when your boat is going to get rocked, because that's just part of being a human being. And whenever that happens, whether it's the loss of a job, God forbid, it's the loss of a child, whatever comes up, what fades to the back is all the stuff and all these sort of constructs, and what really you have left to stand on is the relationships that you have. And so being able to really know where your relationships are and to be able to draw on those when you need them, and to be able to show up as that kind of person for other people as they face those kinds of hardships, I think is some of the most rewarding work that you can do. And we could do it so much bigger if we played it a little bit bigger. And so that's really what we're trying to help people to do, because it's so, the intrinsic rewards of doing that are just phenomenal.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And, I award you guys for remembering the fathers this year that had just lost a child, but it's very important that we have that in there for every single year, because they will always be parents. And I remember the first year, a lot of people didn't even remember, but I'm still a mom no matter what for the rest of my life. Those people need acknowledgments every single year. That better be in your notes, not just the first year, every year.
It's more important as time goes by.
Not be forgotten.
Yeah. And if you got, that's a great point. All right. We're going to come back right after this. Adrian, you're gone. Denise, you're back in. Bring Dominic if you want. And we're back. It's Tom Chenault, and this is the Tom Chenault Show. We got Kim Calabrese with us. She's written a tremendous book. And those of you that don't know it, she has been working on this book. This is a part of her. She was talking about when she met Lauren, she was at a dark point in her life. And I ran into her in those days. And this was a very, very, very troubled woman, just trying to deal with that grief and that everlasting grief. And she got through it. And I am telling you, I am extremely proud of her. The people whose lives she's touching, it's unbelievable. Denise has been getting texted like crazy from friends of hers that are listening to the show that are dealing with that very thing from a long time ago. And talk about that a little bit.
Well, one of my good friends, Marika Barris, who's watching. Hi, Marika. She actually started a foundation called My Baby Angel Foundation based on her loss of her first granddaughter, who ironically was 11 years ago today. And she saw that there was no support for the families of people who have lost babies and infants, and that we still don't, we don't talk about it, and people don't know how to address it. And it's not, when it comes from a fundraising standpoint, when you have a nonprofit, it's not a sexy sort of topic like, our Humane Society is or something like that, And so I think that, like with all death, we need guidance on how to talk about it and how we can best support the families. And around pregnancy and infant loss, a lot of times the mothers get some support, but we don't often recognize that the dads are going through the same thing. And like you were saying, Kim, around your mom and the extended family, and there is a loss. And a lot of times the conversation is, well, just try again, have another one. And there are people that have had pregnancy losses that from years and years ago, women in their 50s, 60s, 70s who are still feeling it. And that baby will always be remembered. And so I think this is really an important topic. And I think that your book is highly needed.
Thank you. Yeah, so the book does start from literally the day you get the phone call, what your role is through the first year. Because really, as a friend, you've got to step up to the plate right away. So what I realized writing the book is, to get the book after the fact is you've already probably missed chapters 1 through 3, because there's a lot that needs to be done immediately within those first 3 to 4 days. That's very important to be there for your friend right from the get-go. So, and then to follow through, and then really touching on these poor siblings that are left behind. I mean, the ones I interviewed, they just get lost in a shuffle. Yeah. Someone needs to get assigned to them immediately. I think we forget they just lost their sibling, as well as they just lost their parents they once knew. And, it's the suicide and drug overdose rate as a result of that is completely crazy and could be saved. The question I get most is, what do I do? What do I say? And I want to really point out is that you guys are all struggling on what to say. We're struggling of what you're going to say.
No question.
So if I can get enough out there and speak and get that open communication, because none of us even want to go to our own funeral because we're like, oh my God, what is this person going to say to me? And you guys are like, what am I going to say? So if I can get rid of that anxiety between all of us, I think that that's so important to get out there. And, I have it, people assigned at certain stations. The parents should never be left alone without a friend. Someone needs to be there at all times with them from start to finish. And then someone needs to be assigned to siblings.
We got a listener who has lost a daughter, who is completely wondering where to go with that. What would you say to that parent? Have you got any answer for that?
So I'm sorry, where to go with?
This individual in the comments has lost a daughter and wants to know if you know of any resources for a parent who's lost a daughter to get through it like you got through it.
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't deal with it the best way. That's why I wrote the book. Unfortunately, my book is how their friends can support them. I would recommend maybe their friends could get the book. You know, a lot of support groups are for people. Joining a support group for some people, that works great. Because those are the people at least that understand what you've gone through. But again, those are not our friends and family. We need them. So she can definitely reach out to me. I would be happy to speak to anyone. I would love to put my website up and help in any way that I can. But again, it's hard because this book I wrote is for friends and family to support, and everyone deals with it differently. So I would need to talk to her on a personal level to maybe give her some ideas, because it's more like an interview process because we all deal with things differently.
Yeah, and we've got your website on the comments. What is the website?
Supportofalovedone.com.
Supportofalovedone.com.
Correct.
So, yeah.
And it is on the back of the book too.
Yeah, supportofalovedone.com. You want to go there. I can't thank you enough for coming on. I think it's a brave book. I love Lauren so much. In fact, we're going to have her on the radio next. I don't have any idea when, but she is a great woman and a stand for people. And what I love about her is she saw the pain in you and decided to do what she could to help you out, knowing full well that once you got helped, you were going to go change the world in your own way. And you've done just that. I'm very proud of you both. We'll see you next week. It's been the Tom Chenault Show. Thanks for listening.
Thank you both very much.
Thanks, Kim.
Okay, you can stay. We're back. Okay, so Kim, great job and tremendous job. I think that show that just finished will be on the radio on 550 stations on Saturday. So that's really, really great. Marika Barris, Compassionate Friends, Help with Child Loss. I mean, it is scary stuff, and I am dealing with it every day. And one thing Denise will tell you, the minute I hear about somebody dying, I dial the phone. The second I hear, I dial the phone, and it is amazing. Like 90% of the time, the parent or the person closest to that death answers. And you always think they're going to be busy, they don't have time, and they answer. And I never say anything except I'm praying, because I don't want anything to be taken the wrong way, because I know it is a very emotional time, but it's crazy stuff. And Mark Stallings, if you're still listening, you playing Amazing Grace out of the sky blue. He was up in Buena Vista. He told me that next week he would come on or send a clip of him doing it. And I said, is your trombone or whatever the sax, what is that? Is that trombone? What do you use? A trumpet? Is that what you use? I have no idea. So the trumpet was in the trunk, and he went out, got up from lunch, went out in the parking lot and kicked that out for us out of respect for JW and Dominic and my friend Mitch James and all those guys. Also, do you know what Sober AF's website is? Anybody? Is it soberaf.com or .org?
Yeah, that was very touching.
AFentertainment.com. Good job.
Okay, good. Somebody say something. I'm typing.
That's never stopped it before. Kim, thank you so much. It really is, it's such an important topic. And I was actually with my friend Marika, who, you know, she started her foundation, goodness, probably almost 10 years, 11 years ago, because it's her granddaughter's anniversary. And
My boys wanted to know if they could wave.
Oh, look at that.
Hello.
Are you a Boy Scout?
We have our big Boy Scout meeting tonight.
Oh, fantastic.
That one little kid's got a booger right there.
He always says that. He can't see that well, just like you can't.
Sorry to interrupt you, Denise. They were so excited to think if they could see on camera.
I love you kids. You're on TV. You're famous kids. And I love Jim, your husband. That's cool. Yeah. So next week, we'll see you next week. To everybody, thanks for listening. You got to love it. We had a great
time. Let me know if I can be of any assistance.
No,
thanks,
you have
Kim.
been.
Love you.
We love
Thank
you.
you. Love you guys.
See you later.
Take care.
Thanks a million. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.